So I just have to show you this. A lot of people on the right just really cheering on the blowing up of these narco-terrorist boats. And I get it. I understand where this is coming from. But I want to show you the hypocrisy of this and why the whole thing is so ridiculous. So you've got Madison Cawthorn here. He's saying, I'd rather blow up 1,000 narco-terrorists than have a single American die from a drug overdose. Okay. But what is blowing up the narco-terrorists going to do? I mean, the Americans that are dying of drug overdoses are ingesting the drugs in their own free will. They're doing it on their own. So what exactly are you doing with this prohibition tactic? Did prohibition work, by the way? I mean, was that a tactic that actually worked? Like if you could stop the manufacturing and the distribution of the drug you don't like during prohibition, it was alcohol. If you could do that, then it would stop people from actually, I don't know, getting drunk. Did it work? I don't think that worked. No, instead we ended up with bootleg, right? And moonshine. We ended up with just people making it in their backyard. More dangerous products, actually. Representative Anna Paulina Luna says, in case anyone is wondering, I'm 100% in favor of blowing the crap out of narco-terrorist trafficking boats that are trying to kill Americans and hook our kids on crack, just in case there was any question. Right, so it's the narco-terrorists in their boats. So again, I'm trying to understand the logic of this. This war on drugs, which we've been at forever, since Prohibition time. That's really when the war on drugs started. And then it kind of went on and Nixon had another war on drugs and Reagan had a war on drugs and Clinton had a war on drugs. And, we just have this major war, this war on drugs that just keeps going on and on and on. And it's never worked. So what is it that we think is going to change this time if we just blow up the boats? Then don't you think that there's going to be new manufacturers of the drugs? I mean, if you can't cure the demand, if you can't figure out the demand side of it, then this isn't going to work. You're just going to create different supply chains. I mean, when you get rid of one dealer, you just create another. I mean, that's it, because the demand is still there. And one big question people should be asking is, where's the demand coming from? Well, I'll tell you where it's coming from. Big Pharma. Big Pharma created the opioid crisis. Big Pharma, American Big Pharma, got our people hooked on opioids. And when the people wanted stronger drugs, they were already addicted to opioids. Then you could get these groups from South America, these cartels coming in to capitalize on what our Big Pharma already did. So if you want to start blowing people up and saying we're going to go after the narco-terrorists, I mean, wouldn't that be the Big Pharma guys? Why are we not doing anything about Big Pharma? Why is it we're just going after the guys that are capitalizing on what Big Pharma created? And then you've got guys like Luigi Mangione, right, who right now is in court for killing a Big Pharma CEO. And you've got the same people who are championing the blowing up of drug lords are the very same people. I just find this ironic. I'm not championing Luigi Mangione by any means. I'm not championing any of this. But I'm just showing the hypocrisy of this, that the same very people who say, oh, yes, we have to go after the drug lords are the very same people that say, lock Luigi up. This is unacceptable for him to be going and just murdering CEOs in the streets. Or maybe the left is, doing their own war on drugs, which is what Luigi Mangione said he was doing. Just like this hypocrite here. This woman says, my beautiful 19-year-old niece died last year from an overdose. I'm still angry. Blow the effing boats up twice for good measure. Okay, but this same woman said a year and a half ago, summer of love for effing George overdose Floyd. So see, it only works when it's somebody you care about or you want to have the war on drugs. But then when it's George Floyd and we say, well, George Floyd was killed by these narco-terrorists, so now we need to go and avenge him and blow up their boats. You would never go for that. These people that are like, oh, let's just blow them up. They would never go for that if you say, oh, yeah, we should go after the guys that killed George Floyd. They say, oh, no, George Floyd overdosed on his own. That had nothing to do with it. That was his own decision. It was his own decision. Just the hypocrisy of it. Bad Hombre says, as a taxpayer, I would hope that narco-terrorists are struck a second, third, or fourth time if the first strike doesn't kill them. Why allow them to survive and resume their life of trafficking poison? Makes no sense. Make sure they're dead. This whole mentality also is going to backfire. And people can never, the left never sees this and the right never sees this. But if you're just going to label anybody you don't like as a terrorist, and right now it's the narco terrorists, right? The drug trafficking, and you're going to say these are now terrorists, which they're not. I would not classify them as terrorists. In fact, I don't. But I wouldn't use that word in most of the situations we use it in, because it's a slippery slope, and it actually is a slippery slope. So if you're going to label these guys as terrorists, what then? Where does this logic leave us? Does this lead us to, okay, if we're going to go after the drug lords that are trafficking drugs into the United States, then what about the drug lords that are already here in the United States? Can we then label them as terrorists? And if we label them as terrorists, do we evade the due process for them? And we just say, well, we just have the right to kill them because they're terrorists. So yeah, it's war. Just shoot them dead on sight. And that's it. And do you think that's a far stretch? Because it really isn't. To go from this logic to that logic, it really isn't. And then also for, let's say, when President AOC is in power, and then she turns around and says, yeah, all these MAGA types, they're terrorists, and we have to eliminate them. They're fascists, they're terrorists, they're Nazis, we have to eliminate them. And then she says, we're going to designate them terrorist organizations. Can law enforcement then go after Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, and say, well, you're all a bunch of terrorists, and you all need to be eliminated. And then we ship you off to El Salvador, into those prisons that Trump's already contracted with. So they're already there. They're ready for AOC to use. And she says, we're just going to send you off to El Salvador. Here's Megyn Kelly. This is what she had to say.
So I really do kind of not only want to see them killed in the water, whether they're on the boat or in the water, but I'd really like to see them suffer. I would like Trump and Hegseth to make it last a long time so that they lose a limb and bleed out a little. Like, I'm really having a difficult time ginning up sympathy for these guys who 10 seconds earlier almost got taken out by the initial bomb, but because they managed to get ejected, a little too soon, had to be taken out in the water. I realize legally it may make a difference, but truly, Mark, this is a tough case to really gin up the sympathies of the American people.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to have that same issue, Megan, with a lot of different people in this country. There's a lot of leftists, for example, who have no sympathy for the J6 rioters, terrorists, insurrectionists. No sympathy whatsoever. So this line of reasoning, this is where it's leading us as a country. It's leading us in this direction of, we're really, you could just label anybody a terrorist and anybody could end up being blown out of the water and it would be considered okay. But I just wanted to point out the hypocrisy on this one. Why is Luigi Mangione not a hero? I mean, some people do think he's a hero, and a lot of people they think that's despicable that he's been lionized. And so then what is the difference? Is it okay to lionize the people that are blowing up the boats out of the water, but not, the hypocrisy there is stunning. And not only that, but this war on drugs just isn't going to work until we actually deal with the problem, because Americans are choosing to ingest these drugs. They're not being forced. Nobody's walking around door to door and shoving these drugs down the throats of Americans. There's a choice there that's being made. People choose all the time to drink alcohol. If they die of alcohol poisoning, do we call for airstrikes on liquor stores? I mean, of course we don't. But nonetheless, this is the way of thinking, this line of thinking, and it's very much like, we're just maybe we're just a real warmongery people. We love to wage war. We just love to kill, and all reasoning and all rationality just goes out the window whenever we're faced with killing people. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. It's really quite stunning. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.